Welcome, Highlander fans, to Bloody Kings, a Highlander podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. On this show, we cover everything from the Highlander universe. And on this episode, we're going to discuss, this is a good one, guys, Highlander 1986 Yung Dol Kim actor Alex King found, with a very special interview with author Jonathan Melville. This is Bloody Kings, guys, our Highlander podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And make sure you guys also, if you're a big fan, and this is going to come up a little bit later for reasons, if you're a fan of the Highlander gaming world, like the collectible card game and other things, make sure you check out our sister Facebook group called Highlander Bloody Kings Collectible Card Game and Discussion Group. Please also check out our regular Bloody Kings Facebook group as well. We got a lot of great Highlander fans and Highlander guests in there. So if you're watching this YouTube video, please check out the QR code. That is our link to our Fandom Podcast Network link tree, with links to all of our shows under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella, including Blood of Kings. Again, this is Bloody Kings episode 181, and we got a lot to get into. I am one of your co-hosts, Kevin. I've done some Highlandery things. I've been to Scotland. I've done some fun stuff. But I'd like to introduce my co-host for Bloody Kings here, the co-founder of the Fight Monkeys, Minnesota-based stunt action team and actors. Please welcome Mr. Lee Fillingsness. What's going on, buddy?
You know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I get to have fun with my buddies talking about Highlander. As you can see from these pictures here, that's been a pretty important part of my life. So
yes, we'll get into that towards the end of the show. We'll find out a little more about you. But yeah, we're doing this in an odd hour because that's what we do. And sometimes we're dealing with awesome guests that agree to come on. We have to do it at different hours. But that's what we do here at Bloody Kings because, you know, immortals do that all the time, so they're kind of used to it. So, Leah, I'm a little excited about this. Yung Dol Kim, brother, we got some stuff to talk about.
yeah, this is kind of that great mystery from Highlander. Everyone, once we started hearing about this back in the 90s, everyone's like, ooh, I wonder if we'll ever see it. And, you know, I know there's been plenty of arguments on the boards about this. So kind of cool to put some of it to rest and put a face to the name.
Well, we have a special guest, and the special guest is the author of this awesome book right here. This is Highlander, A Kind of Magic, but we got another book to talk about too coming out. This is Jonathan Melville. Please welcome to the Bloody Kings. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, how you doing? Morning.
Good to see you. Thank you for meeting us at this early time for you. We appreciate that.
It's all right.
We got a lot to talk about, but we did want to mention that you've been on the show a few times. I remember we first interviewed you, me and my then, I guess, girlfriend going on fiance. We met you in Scotland, did our first interview. You were going to have this book come out. You were talking about this book. It had not been out yet, A Kind of Magic. We also had one of my favorite shows we had you on was talking about Highlander physical media over the years. That was a lot of fun. We also did the breakdown of the Highlander. Was it during a 35th anniversary 4K Blu-ray edition here. That was a lot of fun. And you have an audio commentary on this, including the new edition that just came out. And as Lee and I can attest, to make sure that you check out that audio commentary because it's probably one of the most informative ones, Lee.
Well, and it's interesting to, you know, watch the original Highlander and hear 2 actual Scottish accents. Yeah. and our own Jonathan Melville. So
well, Jonathan, it's really good to have you. Thank you again for meeting us for this. It's going to be a fun discussion.
I can't wait to talk. It'll be good fun.
All right, so this is Highlander, Bloody Kings, episode 181. Yung Dol Kim has been found. We're going to get into that. But what we usually like to do is sometimes we go into Joe's to have these chats. But because we are talking about the 1986 Highlander film, we're going to go into Connor's little exclusive inner sanctum where he keeps all of his trophies. He likes to invite hot chicks in to stab him to prove his immortality. So let's go into Connor's little room there. Okay. Now, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary as of this recording. And this is a big deal. When the 40th anniversary was coming around, we were kind of wondering what to expect. I want to ask you, Jonathan. I know we were all kind of looking at the anniversary, the 40th anniversary, because that's a big deal. I know you were working on this book that we'll get into and such. But what does the 40th anniversary of Highlander mean to you?
Wow. Well, it means, I suppose, that I've been investigating, for want of a better word, the world of Highlander for a decade now, because it was back in 2016 that Clancy Brown came to Edinburgh. He came to the Edinburgh Film Festival, and I did I think it was my first interview, maybe my second, but one of my first interviews that ended up in the book, and that ended up, it kind of kick-started this big journey that's taken a decade to get to this point. So personally, it means that. But I guess just in the world of Highlander, of course, it's just a really exciting milestone. And it's just a chance to celebrate again, I suppose, something that we all love. And anniversaries are just a good point to sort of gather around, I suppose, in a way.
That's great. Oh. Lee, I want to ask you your quick thoughts on what the 40th anniversary of Highlander means to you, sir.
It's been, obviously we're here. I'm staying up in the middle of the night to talk about the show, but this has been an important franchise for me. There's a lot of other nerdy stuff out there that, is kind of cool, but this is the one that really inspired me. You see in the pictures that I had for my bio, I did go to school in Paris. I studied swordplay. I speak a few languages. I've had a lot of fun, and the parts of Highlander that I brought with me through my life, you can't really deny it. And there's a great quote in the foreword to Ivanhoe from Graham Tulloch, who's a professor at Kelvin Grove, said that boyhood lives in daydreams that manhood does not forget. And I watched the original Highlander and the series when I was still a teenager, and well, I still got the long hair. It didn't start at the front like it used to, but I'm still kind of a Highlander nerd. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, I'm hosting a podcast.
Yeah, that's why you're on here, bro. Because we appreciate that, and having wonderful guests on like Jonathan, who's I feel like been kind of part of the family for a while, Jonathan. So thank you, and thank you for always accommodating us. Now, regarding the 40th anniversary, to me, it means a lot for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's one of the things that my wife and I have bonded on, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. But Jonathan, I remember when you and I were first talking about your first experience. You went to go see Highlander on the big screen with the awesome double bill of Highlander and The Crow. And that was your first experience. And I remember, did I send you a Blu-ray that had both of those movies on it?
You did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what's funny is every time I think of those two movies, I think that, because there's immortality involved, and there's some revenge involved in both of those as well. But they're both, that's just an awesome double bill there. But for me, there was something hanging out that was bugging me a little bit going into the 40th anniversary. And that is, I have never seen the original Highlander on the big screen until now. So we have a local Santa Barbara International Film Festival that highlights. It's a big deal here in Santa Barbara, California, around February, I think it is, and we get a lot of the A+ Hollywood stars coming up to our wonderful festival and promoting their things. And the Santa Barbara International Film Festival has become so popular that it's actually bought and overtaken 2 older theaters in our town and refurbished them and turned them into movie centers. And one of the things I noticed is that on Friday and Saturday nights at 9 o'clock, they call them after hours, they showcase older films. And I noticed they've been taking advantage of this by showing older films on anniversaries. And I'm like, they're showing like Top Gun, they're showing all these other 86 films. They put them on the calendar. They didn't roll out the whole calendar yet. And I actually emailed them and said, hey, look, Highlander is celebrating its 40th anniversary, guys. Can you please consider showing it? There's a 4K restoration out there. This is prime time for you guys to do it. Can you please do it? And this was back in April, March, when the true 40th anniversary for us here in the States, March 7th, that Highlander was going to be released. And I got a reply back saying, hey, this is a great suggestion. I'll take it to whatever their council is or their people that are planning this.
The Watchers.
What's that?
The Watchers.
The Watchers, yes. So I got an email back saying, guess what? We've scheduled Highlander for late July, for both the nights, because they show them each of the nights. I was like, yes, finally get to see it on the big screen. And what's really cool is I'll bring to the table here if you're watching the video. I bought tickets for each night. I wore a different Highlander shirt for each night. And what's really cool was it wasn't in like the large theater, but it was in these new refurbished theaters with new seats, great sound system, great projection, and there was a decent amount of people in there of all different ages. There was parents that brought their kids, and I noticed there was this elderly couple with friends that came each night, and it turned out that one of the guys that was there each night, he actually worked on the movie. I can't remember his name, but he was like one of the producers that worked on either something with the music or something like that. And he lived in the Santa Barbara area. And he came each night. And his wife asked me what brought me here, and I said, "Well, I'm the reason you're here because I contacted the film festival to get this shown." So, Jonathan, as you know, you've been a little busy with some Highlander screenings for the anniversary, and so I want to get your thoughts on what you've been doing lately, hosting some Highlander on the big screen, but also seeing it on the big screen again.
Yeah, well, first of all, was the guy at your screening, was it Derek Power?
That name sounds familiar.
Did he do a talk? Someone messaged me the other day to say that he was the music supervisor on the film.
I think that might have been him then, because he talked about how he worked with the music, and he was this very sweet elderly man with his wife and another friend, and apparently they live in the Santa Barbara area. So go figure. Well, they came each night.
Brilliant. Well, if it's him, his name is the first one you see when the end credits come up.
Okay.
Which is quite amazing that the music supervisor is the guy that gets the first credit.
Well, I noticed that he stayed for the credits, and like they kept pointing up to it, like, "Yeah, there you are." So that was really cool. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. But tell us about what you've been doing. You've been doing busy hosting 40th anniversary screenings with special guests.
Yeah, well, it's handy to see the photos actually, because it reminds me, because it's been a busy year. But the first one, I think, we've got me with BT Edney, and that was in Bristol. Down in England, and they have this brilliant festival called Forbidden Worlds, and they have just lots of great cult sort of classic movies, and they invited me to introduce the film with BT and do a Q&A. And I've met BT once before, maybe back in 2018, I think it was, down in Birmingham. But we didn't really speak, certainly not as much as this time. So she was fascinating and very funny, and doesn't suffer fools gladly, a bit like Sean Connery, I think. But quite right. After all these years of meeting fans and having stupid questions asked, I think she's got every right to put her foot down if a question doesn't like it, or reframe things if I think one of my questions was nothing I do is meant to be negative as such, or meant to be nasty about anybody. But sometimes when you ask a question, not everything is positive. I can't quite remember what the question was, but there was one that she kind of reframed it basically and sort of said, I don't want to make that. So I can't remember what it was now. It was maybe something about a bad day on set or something, but she wanted it to be positive. So that was really nice. So there was BT, and then in Edinburgh we had a screening at Edinburgh Film House, part of I think it was called Sci-Fan Festival, which is it might be, I'm not sure what it stands for, to be honest, but anyway, it was a good festival. And then I was invited back down to England again, back to Aldborough. You've got the poster there. And I'm now a Highlander guru, apparently, which was
yes, you are.
Which was a surprise to me. But that was lovely. And that's again down in England. That's down in the south east, I think it is, on the coast. Tiny little town. But went down there. I'm a big fan of a British show called Lovejoy. I don't know if you've ever seen, with Ian McShane. And they filmed that.
It.
Yeah, it's about an antique dealer who solves mysteries. But it's brilliant. Anyway, they filmed it down there, so it was an excuse to go and talk about Highlander, and also go to Lovejoy locations. So that was good fun.
That's awesome. That's great.
And also, just to say, one of the he was sort of a guest. I guess he was a guest, although he didn't speak on stage, sadly. But a chap called Doug Grant, who is in the new Highlander film, which we'll talk about later. But he plays a piper, a bagpiper in that film. So he came along and piped me into the event, which was lovely.
That's awesome. Well, I love the fact that you are looked at as a Highlander expert, and you have 2 books out. One of them we'll talk about briefly, and of course you've been on Bloody Kings a few times, so I know you know stuff. But I'm not just saying this because you're here, but your audio commentary, I've listened to McKay's and all, and they're good. But you really, because you've gone and done all the interviews and stuff like that, I'm happy that your commentary is going to live on this physical media, because it is so insightful. And honestly, I like hearing your voice during watching Highlander. I'm going to be honest with you, Jonathan. So.
Thank you. I've not listened to it since I did it, so I'll need to listen back sometime.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, we're going to get into the discussion of Yung Dol Kim in a moment, but I want to talk about, as I teased, you've done some other books here. And of course, you've done Highlander, Kind of Magic. You did Seeking Perfection, Tremors. You did one of my favorite Scottish films, Local Hero. You did Muppets, Rainbow Connection, man. This is awesome. And you've done Hamish and Macbeth. I'm not familiar with this series, but if you can just kind of touch on that. You've done a book about that as well.
Hamish Macbeth, yeah, it's a Scottish show from the 1990s, 1995. Of course, I'm saying that and now thinking, am I getting my dates right? I think it's 95 to 97. Based on a series of novels about a little village in the north of Scotland, and Robert Carlyle plays the local cop.
Oh, love Robert.
But he doesn't want to solve crimes. He wants a quiet life. So it's kind of just about him. I mean, he does try and he stands up for justice, but at the same time, he lets people away with little things, and he smokes pot. And but there's also kind of it was made at the time when Northern Exposure was big, and X-Files. So although it's not like those, there are touches of the supernatural in there, and it's just a really nice little show, and I've been a fan of it since it came out. So I interviewed lots of people involved in it and had great fun.
What I love about Jonathan here is he writes what he loves and what he knows, and he just got, you know what, I'm going to write books about what I like, and there's a following for these, Lee.
Yeah, I got to say, like, as a kid, he would have been welcome at the movie nights with me and my buddies, because I'm seeing, Tremors, Highlander, the Muppets. Don't even get me started. Like, I was huge Muppet fan forever. Opening day on all the movies, even the recent ones. I didn't even know about the Rainbow Connections book, so I'm going to be getting a copy of that.
Cool.
That looks pretty cool.
All available on Amazon, by the way. All of Jonathan's books are available on Amazon, at least here in the States, so make sure you check that out. But, when it comes to the Highlander type of things here, you've obviously hung out with some Highlander guests here with Christopher here, and was that Edie and Roxanne there?
That's right, yeah.
What a great picture. That is fantastic. But it all really started with the 2016 30th anniversary in Edinburgh there. You got to go there and get a special interview that really helped you kind of launch this book, because Clancy Brown hadn't been doing press at all, and he finally showed up for the anniversary of Highlander, and you got a chance to meet him, and this really kind of is where it started for you.
Yeah, totally. I'd already thought that it was a good subject to write a book about. And as I said earlier, I think I spoke to Jim Aitchison, the costume designer, I think just before Clancy. But that was just because, when you start these things, you email lots of people just to see who comes back to you, because maybe nobody will. But yeah, when I spoke to him, I knew, as you say, he wasn't really doing interviews. He's always been a little bit reticent about Highlander, about talking about Highlander, just because I think the way he was treated, the money that he received, and yeah, so getting that was a real coup for me.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was a big deal, and I remember we had just started our Blood of Kings podcast, and we're actually celebrating. We started the same year we started the Fandom Podcast Network, so we're celebrating the 10th anniversary for us and Blood of Kings, which is great. But I remember the news about this because I was going to Scotland eventually on my way to London with my friend from Sweden, because we wanted to visit Ireland and Scotland and visit some Highlander locations and some other movie locations, and this was high on our list, and we were looking like, well, we got to find someone that has been to this. And eventually we talked to you, but this was a big deal personally for me because I got a picture up here. There's someone there waiting to meet up with Clancy Brown. And while you were interviewing him, I was looking at the pictures taken by people, and I noticed that there's someone in the background. And if you're watching the video, I have a little orange arrow pointed at this lovely lady with blonde hair looking at your interview. That would soon be my wife, Erin. And she got a chance to meet Clancy Brown. She's got a full sleeve tattoo of the Kurgan on her arm. She loves the Kurgan. She loves Highlander, and there's a picture of my wife there. So that was a big deal. And eventually, I met Erin in London several weeks later for the first time, and went on our first date to see Aliens, the 30th anniversary of that. And we had her on talking about it. And then once we got together, we got engaged. We went to Scotland, did our own little filming location tour. A lot has to do with your help too, because when I ordered your book, Jonathan, I love the fact that you got this special limited edition photo booklet for the book that I ordered. And you also signed and numbered it, but you also included the map here of the beach, the famous beach scene there.
Yeah.
And it's all in Gaelic, but we were able to figure it out with Google Maps, and we finally found the elusive Highlander Beach, which you ended up doing a video because you went there as well.
That's right. Yeah, I went there when I was writing or researching the first book, and went to the wrong place first.
Yep. A lot of people have.
Yeah, it's so hard to find. I spoke to someone else who did the same, and yeah, so and it was great to get that little map in there.
Yeah,
and that's just part of the fun. You know, you mentioned these things, and I just think I'm glad that I can bring some of these things into the world that wouldn't get seen otherwise. Because why would that map exist in the world? You know, apart from
no one had shown exactly where this beach was. People had claimed they went to it, but there's a beach further south that people thought that was it. And it wasn't until we finally got there and we found it, and then we started telling other people and people on Blood King, so it was great. Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about what you have coming up here, Jonathan. This is a big deal. You have a new book called The Art and Making of Highlander. It's releasing September 1st, 2026. You are showcasing an actual physical copy there, a hardbound copy, which is a great. It's like the ultimate coffee table book. I've pre-ordered mine. I know the topic of this podcast is Yung Dol Kim. We're going to get in that shortly, and that's a section in your book, and we'll get to that when we start talking about the Yung Dol Kim part of this. But what else can we look forward to when it comes to this book?
Oh, wow. Well, I've not spoken about the book that much, to be honest. So that's
if you want to keep it a secret, but if there's something you could tease, feel free.
No. It's more that I've not really had a chance to put this into PR speak, and really think about all the.
Hey, Lee, we got him raw here. He has to really spill it now.
Yeah. Well, let me just think. I mean, maybe I can, without going to boring you with too much detail. I mean, this goes back.
We have a podcast about Highlander. You're not going to bore us with the details, bud.
And I think it's good. Maybe there's somebody out there who'll be researching, Highlander in 20 years' time who'll watch this back, who wants to know things. But basically back in 2024 is when I was first approached about this. So it's been a long time in the making. And I think I had like a 2-year deadline for the first draft. So admittedly, for some of that time, I wasn't writing. Excuse me. And but when I started doing it, I thought, well, this is really exciting for a start. Lovely that people want me to do another one. But then I worried a little bit. I thought, well, how can I do this? I've already done it. How can I tell the same story again without quoting myself endlessly and just repeating things for people that bought the original? So that was my kind of challenge to myself, I suppose, was to try and find new things that that fans who had the original book would find new and fresh. So to do that, I suppose I started looking at maybe gaps in the first book if I had any. I mean, I think one of them was Gregory Wyden, the original writer of Highlander, as I'm sure everybody watching this knows. But Gregory, I couldn't contact him before when I was writing the first book. I just couldn't get in touch with him. He's a very busy man, and it just didn't work out. I managed to get an end. What's the term now? Like a closing chapter from him, which was really just an email. So this time, thankfully, he was willing to talk more. So I think having the man who created Highlander is pretty vital.
Yeah.
And so he is in there this time with more detail and some things I'd not heard before. I mean, lifting the veil a little bit, when I first spoke to him and I said, I wrote this other book, and he was like, yeah, there's some things that are wrong in there. And I thought, oh, okay. But he's a lovely guy. He's very polite about it. But that was some of the things he tried to fix, or we tried to fix this time. Nothing was really drastically wrong, I don't think. But the thing is, the things that were wrong in his mind were things that no one else knew. So how could I know? Unless you speak to the guy who made it, who wrote it. So so there's him. He's in there, and and just going back to find out a few new things. So I went back to Russell Mulcahy and to Roxanne Hart in particular, because I wanted to know more about the deleted scenes. Because in the first book I do mention them and talk about them, but of course I didn't have all the photos. I wasn't allowed really to use those photos. Whereas now we have little chapters, mini chapters on these deleted scenes, and I could actually speak to the people that were there, and that was part of the fun as well. Was just saying to Roxanne, what was it like filming something 40 years ago that didn't end up in the film? Do you even remember shooting that? So that was kind of interesting, and because I had the photos, I could go on to Zoom and show them the photos and just try and jog their memories.
Right.
So I think for me that's really exciting is sort of revisiting what I did before, but trying to add to it. And going back to James Aitchison, the costume designer, to try and get a bit more detail. Speaking to a chap called Thomas Mulak, who, hope I pronounced his surname right, but Thomas is a sword expert, and there are lots of those, of course, in the world of Highlander. But Thomas actually owns some of the original swords.
Wow!
And we go into detail. So what I didn't do, and I realised no one's ever mentioned it to me, but I think a gap in the first book was me not covering the swords in any detail. I think partly because I'm not a sword expert, and I just didn't think to do it really, which is bad. But this time I was looking through the book the other day, and we have lots of pages really close up on the swords and the handles and the hilts and the bits on them. I don't know the names. And Thomas was really helpful just to try and clarify, how good would a katana be across multiple fights, and what's some of the truth behind the history of the swords mentioned in the film, and so it's just kind of going a bit. It's a funny one. People have said what's different about this one, and it's hard because it goes deeper in some places, but it's lighter in other places because it's a quarter of the size of the word count. So I keep saying it's the same story but just a bit different. So anyway, there you go. That's the best I can sort of think of just now.
It seems like, too, you got more pictures in this one since it's called The Art of Highlander. And I think that's something that's important because, like myself, a lot of people really appreciate the visuals of something. And it's actually something that they haven't been doing a lot lately like they used to do in the 80s and 90s, where they would release a book of a popular film and they would showcase the art and the behind the scenes. Lee, I know you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. I've had a ton of those growing up. I'm still that nerd. I've got all the ones for Star Wars, Jurassic Park especially. And you couldn't escape that back in the early 90s. But no, I'm actually, as soon as you said swords, you know, I mean, obviously I'm a huge nerd about that. But that's really cool because we haven't really gotten great pictures of any of that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you got. And I mean, could you tell our listeners, did you get the secret recipe for how to, you know, do the breakdown broadsword? Like, I want to get one of those.
The Kurgan sword?
Well, I spoke to the man who designed that sword. So he talks about how it was made. I'm just looking at the section just now. We've got, I don't know.
Oh, wait, hold that up. I want to get a good
I know it's a bit blurry because of the way I've got this set up. But
oh, so cool.
So this is from the, sorry about.
Now hold it right there. That's cool. Look at that.
So that there is from the Davis Panzer archive. I mean, they've actually got that. Sorry about the blur. That spoils it. But
I like it because it kind of keeps a mystery to it. So, you know.
I know. It's like it's planned, isn't it? But this here is actually the original schematic of the sword, which you can't really see so easily.
If you're listening to this podcast, make sure you check out the video. It's if you don't end up getting the book right away, because it's even the layout looks gorgeous, Jonathan. You have to be proud with the layout of this book.
Totally. I mean, I didn't know. You know, I guess when you write when you write a book or write anything, you think the words are the most important part of it, and then you see it with the pictures, and just realize how important that, you know, they add to the story. You know, they enhance the story, I suppose. I mean, again, I can't. They don't come up well in a Zoom photo, but when there are photos from the likes.
I've been to that location. I love that location.
Yeah.
That one there.
Is that the Nevis location there? Nevis? How do you?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these photos. So we got. We managed to get, so that's Gregory, one of those photos from Gregory Wyden. So that's another thing we managed to do, is say to Gregory, have you got any photos that haven't been seen? And also Russell, when I interviewed him, he had some photos on the wall behind him, which he said, hey, I'll scan them and I'll send them to you. So there's some really nice photos from behind the scenes of like the original ending of the film when they were shooting it on a rock, which is the rock that when Connor and Heather are lying, when Sean Connery, when Ramirez arrives,
right,
they go back to that rock at the end of the film in the original version, and they're standing on it in the rain. And Russell hated it, so he said, like, we're scrapping that. So they scrapped that ending, and then that's when they had to fly Roxanne back to the UK months later to reshoot it in Wales. So he sent photos. And
that's great. I've not seen that.
and Gregory sent photos of him when he visited the set, and he tells stories about just being this young kid who had written a movie that was now on set. And because he said to one of the guys, I think when he went to Elon Donnan, he said, "Oh, I'm the right. I don't want to do the accent, but he says, I'm the writer." And the guy was like, "What? A rider? Like riding the horses?" He says, "No, the writer." So he was just this kid. So there were lots of photos, plus other photos that came to me when I was doing or researching the first book that I just couldn't fit in the book because it wasn't a photo book. So there was a chap called John Hancock, who I can't remember the whole story now, but it's basically he was at the studio where they were editing the film and found some offcuts in the skip.
Wow.
I think it was maybe a reel that came to him. And so he's just got these sort of offcuts of when they had the clapperboard, in front of Connor, of Christopher and Beatty up in Scotland. And so we got that turned into photos. What would you call it? Digitized? I'm not sure, but it was kind of scanned, I suppose. So there are photos there, just a few of them, but there's more of them that exist. And it's kind of like when Connor comes out of the loch and he's got the sword, we've got this kind of almost like a stop motion of different shots of this.
Oh, wow.
But it's not the one from the film, it's a slightly different angle. So there's all these different things. So the photos, the words and the interviews are slightly different. But also the photos, some of them you've never seen before. So
before we get into talking about Yung Dol Kim, because that's one of the biggest finds you've done here. Can you just tease one other person or behind the scenes or someone that you got to speak to on this?
I mean, the other one I suppose is, which was a big thing for me, was finding Cousin Dougal.
Oh, really?
Billy
Oh,
Hartman,
cool.
who I don't think has ever been interviewed about Highlander before. Because when I was doing research for the first book, I didn't find anything, and I couldn't find him.
Cousin Dougal.
Yeah. So he is from Edinburgh, like me, and but doesn't live here. And he had a big career in the sort of 90s and maybe some of the noughties on a TV show called Emmerdale Farm in the UK. And he didn't have a Scottish accent. So I remember watching it a little bit with my mum back in the day, and I didn't know he was Scottish. But it turned out he was in Edinburgh doing a tour of a play a couple of years ago. And I saw his name pop up on the internet or something. And I thought, that's Cousin Dougal. So I went along to the theatre and took a copy of my book, A Kind of Magic, and put it into the stage door. They have these little cubby holes, these little letterbox type things you can put things in, and just put a letter in saying, "Can I please interview you?" And he came back to me, and so so I spoke to him. That took about a year to get him as well, in total, from leaving that book with him. So he's got some really nice stories about being on set in the battle sequence and also at the castle, and some really fun things which I'd not heard before. So there's new stuff in there. So it's.
Before we move into our main topic, are you doing any book release parties or anything coming up for that, or what's going on for the release? September 1st.
Nothing major, sadly. I mean, I'm going up to Inverness. I think the big one is Inverness on the 5th of September. We're going to show it, and tickets are only, I think, 73 pence, because the cinema, Eden Court Cinema, is 50 years old this year.
Wow.
As am I. I was 50 a few weeks ago. So they're charging ticket prices at the 1976 prices, I think.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So 73p to get in, and I'll be signing copies of the book there.
And are they showing Highlander there?
And they're showing Highlander, so I'll be introducing it. Yeah.
What a great place for Inverness, beautiful city. Get to see Highlander celebrating its 40th anniversary. Get to see Jonathan Melville celebrating his 50th, and you also get to celebrate the 50th with a theater as well. That sounds like a great time. So,
I'd like to do more, but in a way, I suppose I've done these other screenings and things, and maybe I'd like to do something in London. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'll let you know if I hear more.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our main topic, guys. We got to talk about one of the biggest Highlander mysteries that's out there. Okay. Now, this was a big find, and we're going to get into it here with you, Jonathan. You found Alex King, who is the actor that played Yung Dol Kim, the missing immortal from Highlander, from the infamous cutscenes. But before we talk about your interview with him, I want to get your thoughts on this, Lee, as well, is how the mystery of Yung Dol Kim is kind of fascinated. Fans have been fascinated about this mystery a long time because we've seen the images for so long. We've heard about, what happened to the footage and all that kind of stuff. And I did want to put something kind of to rest, because I believe the source material, when I hear it, that it's been said that the original footage has been lost in a fire for many, many years. Now, I've heard through Andy Sloan and some other people that's actually not the case. It's just lost, not necessarily destroyed in a fire. Now, if you've heard something different, feel free to say so, but I believe these sources a little bit more from this rumor that's happened years and years ago. We'll kind of leave that out there, but if you guys know something, feel free to put in here. But the thing is, Yung Dol Kim has been this mystery, because we've seen these photos for so long, and we've seen the Kurgan fighting this guy for, these images for so long, that it even goes back to the game world. And I alluded to the Bloody Kings Highlander collectible card game group. because in the 90s, there was a Highlander collectible card game that they released. They were showcasing the TV series with Duncan MacLeod, but then they released a movie series. And I want to show you, this here is the Yung Dol Kim persona card from the Highlander TV series. So they actually took all of these pictures that they had and they made a deck that you could make. And this is from my personal collection, guys. These are all decks of Highlander. And this red box right here is a Yung Dol Kim deck that you can play on Highlander right here. And what you do is you choose your immortal and then you build a deck around it and you go one-on-one against your other immortals. So obviously the Highlander collectible card game group was fascinated with Yung Dol Kim. Lee, I want to start with you. Where did your fascination of Yung Dol Kim start, and when did you learn about this missing immortal that we never got to see in the movie?
So interesting you bring up the collector's card game. I learned about it from a CCG nerd. There's a restaurant chain here in the States called Perkins. And I was one of those late night weirdos that was, there till 3 a.m. And there was guys playing the game. And everyone kind of knew me in the Des Moines nerd community as the Highlander guy. They're like, who's this? And I'm like, oh, that must be from the TV show. Because I had not seen this. I had not even heard the rumor of it. But then I'm like, that's not the TV show, though. When you're a huge nerd, you kind of recognize filming styles. That looks like from the movie, but I don't remember any of that. And you'd get breadcrumbs over the years of oh, who's this? I think I probably heard Yung Dol Kim the first time in the early 2000s. Was the first time I heard mention of it. And then you hear oh yeah, the fire rumor, the everything there. And I think the story of what the fight was, I just think sounds so cool because, we don't really have a good establishing fight for the Kurgan before he fights Connor,
right.
Or before he fights Connery, really. So we don't have that idea of, what kind of warrior he truly is. And I think this would have really set something up kind of crazy. And also, in hearing the recap, we get a great sense of that immortal weariness. I think that's pretty cool. So this is that had to have been 95 when I first saw that card, and finally getting a little bit of I don't know if closure is the right word, but confirmation and background. I think it's pretty cool.
You know what, Jonathan, I wanted to mention that I think if you go back and you read the original script, and I want to say maybe it was on the laser disc or something, there was alluding to the actual fight that we never did see, and how, with the quickening, and I think Yung Dol Kim's body got shot out of a window, and we heard some backgrounds about that. When you were doing the original book, you came across this information, though, didn't you?
Well, yeah. So I cover it in the first book from the perspective of the sort of dummy, I suppose, the body, what would you call it? The dummy of Yung Dol Kim, the dummy cast, life cast, that was chucked out of the window in New York. But yeah, it was always just a slightly confusing one. I couldn't work out. There's so much about it I couldn't work out where it was filmed. The shot of Kim being of the quickening causes such as we know, it causes sort of lights to flicker or explode, and fire hydrants to blow up and things. So in this contained space of an office block on Wall Street, I think the window implodes and then the body gets sucked out of the window. So that's about as much as I knew. And also, I did know there was this chat that the actor in Britain, he's British, but the actor David Yip, who of course Indiana Jones fans will also know from the opening sequence of
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom, yeah. He helps out Indy, doesn't he? And he was also in a show in the 80s called The Chinese Detective. And one of the guys, John Shunrad, who was designing the life casts, he he told me that people used to call him the Chinese Detective because he looked a bit like David Yip. Although he's not Chinese, I don't think, so I don't know what was happening there. But so of course he's had this memory in his head of the Chinese Detective, and he met him because he came onto the set to be cast as Yung Dol Kim. And so this is about as much as I knew, because then we found out that he left the film, and I did contact David Yip's agent, who said David never shot at any of the film, so he won't speak to you. Which didn't say that it didn't really deny that he'd been there, but it didn't really confirm it either. So it was just this weird thing.
Gotcha.
And then when I spoke to people and said who replaced him, nobody could tell me. And I don't know why. I don't think there was a conspiracy of silence. I don't think they all agreed we will never mention this man's name again. But it is odd. It's just a bit odd because Alex, and we'll get into that, I suppose, but Alex was, okay, he wasn't a famous actor at the time, but, he was there for sort of a week or so, I think, filming off and on. So I don't know why people couldn't remember him. Anyway, so that's kind of where I suppose I left it, was in that first book saying, will we ever know who he was?
I think we brought that up when we interviewed you, because this has been one of Highlander's biggest mysteries. Let's be honest here, other than filming locations and some other things. So let's get into it. You, in your new book, and as you've teased, and you did an interview, there's an interview with you, an article on the Telegraph, and it was the title goes, "I was called a liar for 40 years, the mystery of Highlander's missing immortal." Jonathan, tell us how this started, and where did you get the clue that you could find Alex King, otherwise known as Yung Dol Kim? This is fascinating.
Well, funnily enough, it all ties back into something we've already talked about tonight, that Clancy Brown screening, which is a weird kind of nexus point for so many things, it seems, because
I know how you feel.
That video, so that photo you showed earlier of me interviewing Clancy, I had a camera in front of me at the time and I was filming him. And so I filmed that video and edited it and put it online 10 years ago. And then about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, roughly, I had a message. A message was left in the comments of that video, just randomly.
This on YouTube?
On YouTube, yeah. So the video is not my channel, because it was the channel I was working for at the time, and that company doesn't exist now.
Okay.
But for some reason, that video is still up there. I think because it gets a lot of views. So I commented on it at one point saying, "Hi everyone, thanks for being nice about the video." So when someone replied to me on that video, I got the alert. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done, because it's not my video, if that makes sense. So I got this message saying, "Hi, I am Yung Dol Kim." And of course, at the time, I thought, well, it's the internet. There are weird people out there. Anyone could say, I could say I'm the king of Spain, or something. And people would either go, well, that's rubbish, or, okay, maybe it is the king of Spain. But
so much I said.
But so that's kind of where it started, and it led to me trying to leave comments on this YouTube. And anyone that's tried to leave comments on YouTube, if you've ever tried to leave an email address or a phone number, it just deletes them straight away, because I guess. Yep. So that's what kept happening. I kept saying, because you can't direct message people on YouTube. So I couldn't leave him. I couldn't get in touch with him. There was no way, apart from just hoping he would reply. So we went back and forth quite a lot. And so that's kind of the long version of it, I suppose, is it took a few months really to try and actually get proper contact with him. So I managed in the end through various long-winded ways proper, I suppose, kind of detective work in a way, or journalistic work, I suppose you would call it. But so anyway, in the long, and I ended up speaking to him. One day I just remember being in Edinburgh. We've got there's a beach called Portobello, just outside Edinburgh, and it was a cold night. I think it was maybe like February, and I went there just for the day for whatever reason, and I got a phone call from this guy, Alex King, and I knew I'd sort of worked out that the actor's name was Sumar Khan. I think that was maybe through the messages or just through. I can't quite remember all the details now because it's been a little while ago, but it was a little while ago. But I thought that Sumar Khan was the actor and that Alex King was his agent. So I was speaking to this guy on the phone, and then at one point he said, "Oh, just to tell you, I am actually Sumar Khan." So, and I just remember because I was on the beach and it was cold, and I was trying to write notes down on my little notepad, and it was freezing. So I think he was just a little bit wary, I guess, of coming forward with his story. Finally, I don't quite know. You'd need to ask him, and we've not really spoken about that too much. But yeah, so that was it really. And then I went down to London about a year. I don't know. Again, I lose track of time. About a year and a half ago or something, to a Jim Henson event. It was was it Labyrinth? Dark Crystal event that was on at Elstree Studios. And Alex came along and met me, and we went for lunch or dinner. I spoke for 3 hours.
Wow.
About his life, because if you've read that article, he's got an incredible life. And that wasn't even the interview. That was just us talking. And then we spoke on Zoom and recorded it all. So, so it's been a bit of a journey in a way, isn't it? Of trying to,
It seems that he was comfortable talking about this with you. And I'll get into a couple of quotes that he had here. But what I want to ask you was, did he realize like how fascinating his story was to fans and how people wanted to know who this guy was?
No. And I don't know. I still don't quite know why he left the comment on that YouTube video. I don't know if all the things. I mean, I guess if I had been in Highlander, I might Google it sometimes as well. So I guess he was maybe just on YouTube. Maybe it popped up, or he was searching for Highlander. I don't know. But I don't think he knew. I don't know if he knew about he must have known about my book, but he'd not read it. And
right.
So, yeah, I think he was just, after all this time, he just maybe thought, let's reach out. And there was never any guarantee, I suppose, that I was going to include this and that he would let me tell his story, I suppose. It was all very much based on trust, I think. And because it's quite it's a really emotional story for him. And I bizarrely feel a bit emotional just thinking about it, because the guy had such a, that thing about being called a liar. That's quite a big thing, I think, to have for 40 years tell people you were in this film, and people just go, "No, you weren't. I've seen it." That must be horrible. And so
you have a quote. You have a quote from him in this article. It says, "Quote: I think they were embarrassed," he says today, "of the decision to remove his fight scene. How do you tell a guy that you've cut him out because his sequence was too good? Too good is not false modesty." Anderson had warned that the choreography risked overshadowing everything around it, including scenes with Lambert, who was fit and enthusiastic, but despite being trained by Team Great Britain Olympic fencing coach, is it Zymek? Is that how you say his name?
I think so.
Yeah, Zymek was not a fencer. King had taken up judo, karate, and fencing in his teens, and by the time he got to drama school, he was already a double black belt and regional level 4 fencing instructor. Quote, I asked Bob Anderson which schools the unit stuntman had fenced at, and he told me that they were all proud graduates of the Bish Bash Bosh School of Fencing, says King. At 69, he lives quietly in his London flat. He's reclusive by his own admission, a teetotal vegetarian, and trains his body and voice daily. Though unfailing courteous, he's also refreshingly blunt. Lee, I wanted to ask your thoughts on this, because this guy, obviously they got a guy who knew how to do swords.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen a lot. I mean, it does happen more on that side of the pond because, um, yeah, and this is some inside baseball, but in the British acting schools, they are taught stage combat of some sort. I mean, you really, because I mean, just with the Shakespearean tradition, if you're a guy, you're gonna have at least some semblance of a sword fight at some point. We don't have that as much in the States. We don't. I'm imagining they probably didn't have a lot of that in Belgium when Christophe was growing up, or Paris, or wherever, what other schools were, um, and certainly Clancy hadn't. But it is the kind of thing that is really fun to see. But I also have been, as a choreographer, I've been in places where they hire the hero for a look and not a skill set. When it's about a skill set, when it's about, like good training, you end up kind of seeing like, oh, here's patty cake and here is, pugilistic chess. And when you have kind of a mismatched tone, I see how that can go. And having, been in small movies that if any of you have seen most of them, I would apologize. They're not particularly good, the ones I've been in. But when you get cut out, it is kind of, it does kind of hurt. And to not have any of the validation, one of the things that, I really appreciated, I was cut out of this movie, BitCon, with, among other people, Jeremy Davies. And I had shot for a day and a half, and my scene just kind of got cut. And I accepted it. Like, I didn't even know until they did the premiere. And I was just a guy that was there for a little while, but the director and the producer came up after and apologized to me. And in the Q&A, they kind of pointed at me and they're like, yeah, we did have Lee in this. We had to cut him out. But, we know it's like, it was really a nice gesture. And I don't know how I would respond if I was in something this cool and then it was got cut. And that, I think, in the article and in, I'm assuming in the book, you're going to have this too. But like, that did a little something to the poor guy. I feel bad for him.
Okay, and I got a picture here that's in the article of where he plays one of the guards here when Timothy Dalton in the Living Daylights, in Afghanistan, and there's a great picture of him there, and that's when he was going as Sumar Khan. But I want to go back to what he said, Jonathan, about how maybe they felt embarrassed that they cut the best fight scene. Because it says here in the article that it was Bob Anderson who brought King to Highlander, recommending him for the role of this immortal weary of eternity. And he says that at the studio, King and Anderson built a fight unlike anything else in the film. They had him wield 2 swords against Brown's single blade, that's Clancy Brown, and kicks and acrobatic dives. One move sent him hurtling backwards over a bank of computers, only to dive back into the frame, grab both hilts and fight on. The sequence's most radical element was its ending. Yung Dol Kim doesn't lose, he simply stops. After centuries, he had just had enough, chose to die, kneeling before the Kurgan. Quote, I wanted to go from expression of violent combat to the serene face of a man who has Buddha-like embrace of his death, end quote. Jonathan, I want to ask you about this because it was brought to us that he was just done fighting this character, Yung Dol Kim. But it sounded like they had a hell of a fight that might have eclipsed a lot of the other sword fighting that we saw in this film.
Yeah, totally. And that's where we don't have the real answer, of course. We don't quite know why it was cut out. I spoke to Peter Honest, the editor, a couple of years ago, well, a few years ago. He vaguely remembered it. His memory was that it wasn't the best sequence, and I think he wasn't too upset that it was cut. But that's just one person's view, and I think when you look at the photos and you hear the enthusiasm that Alex has for that scene, he remembers it. He remembers it all. He remembers every move because he choreographed it. And I think that was unusual. I think Peter Diamond was choreographing most of the other sequences, and we don't, and of course Peter Diamond's not here to speak to, so we don't know why it changed with Alex. But I guess it was just a different style. He had his character had a different style of combat. So maybe it was natural to ask the person who was an expert in it to help choreograph it alongside Bob Anderson. But I mean, everyone I spoke to about Bob Anderson was hugely appreciative of him, and also just looked at him with awe. I mean, that's something that same with Alex, you know, and of course we know Clancy was a huge fan and became friends with him and sort of lived with him. I think when they were filming, he brought Bob to stay with him. So Bob is so it's you know, it's so sad that he's not been here for a while, so we couldn't speak to him for the 30th or the 40th, because he would have some incredible stories to tell. But yeah, so I suppose, I don't quite know. Yeah, I think possibly that's true. I mean, I think that's one of the theories, is that maybe it would have made Christopher Lambert look a little bit, you know.
I know what you're getting at. But the other thing that I found fascinating, though, was that you saw an immortal that just wanted to give up. And I don't know if that's something maybe that in the end final scene they really wanted. They wanted every immortal to fight till the end. Maybe that was another reason why it was cut. I'm just speculating here.
Yeah, possibly.
But you know, we saw touches on these topics in the TV series. You know about immortals just wanting to give up. And you know, I've shown some pictures here. Here's King with Zymek together after many years, and the picture, of course, with Timothy Dalton. And here's King as the Prince of Odan in the stage comedy My Wife, What's Her Name, circa 1989. And here's a current, more recent picture of Alex King. Preparing for Highlander, quote, required me to confront and reconcile myself with the ultimate destruction. Give credit to Heathcliff O'Malley here from the Telegraph for this picture. He was very open to you in this interview about wanting to end his life. He was very distraught after his lovely wife was killed in a car accident in 1992. And it turns out he was saved by a dog. And I wanted you to kind of touch on that a little bit. Yeah,
actually, it was, I got it wrong. He emailed me afterwards to say it was 91 that his wife died. I think we got our messages a bit confused, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was just such a sad. I mean, this is the thing. Whenever you interview someone about something as silly, ultimately as a movie, you know, I mean, it shouldn't be. It's not, you know, life or death in most cases. And when you speak to someone and they then open up a bit more about their life, that's both a great thing and a difficult thing as well, because it's trying to work out, well, how much do I need to know and how much do the readers need to know? So that part of the story is not in the book. So I think this is interesting. Is again, this article is quite nice, I think, for fans to have, because it goes into more detail. I just couldn't fit it all into the book. And so, yeah, it's just a really both sad but maybe ultimately hopeful, I suppose, side of his life and his story, that he was so distraught and his life just felt, I mean, I don't want to, of course, put words into his mouth, but just trying to summarize it, I suppose, his life was changed so much by his wife's death that he wanted to end it all, and so drove up into the hills to commit suicide. So that was a tricky one to write about in the article as well, because I wasn't quite sure what you can. I've never had to write about that before, so I wasn't sure even what wording you're allowed to use, because it can be sensitive for people. And maybe we should put a message at the start of this just to say, you know, this is obviously a sensitive topic for people. But yeah, the positive, I suppose, is that yes, of course, the dog came running up to his car. With a dog walker was out in the car, and the dog ran up and tried to take the sort of pipe away from the car, so effectively saved his life. So this is something, whenever I speak to Alex, I spoke to him a few days ago, he phoned me up, and he just loves dogs now. It's kind of his life. He'll go abroad.
He carries dog treats with him now everywhere he goes.
Totally. Yeah. And he goes abroad on holiday, and most people will look at you know, buildings or cafes. He's looking out for animals, for dogs. And when I spoke to him last, someone had said someone he'd either bumped into or knew had a dog that had been injured and needed some help to, I think it was these little wheels sometimes you see on the back of dog, when they've maybe got their back legs have been damaged, they have the wheel. So he'll help sometimes pay. So yeah, he's an incredible guy and just such a generous man. And you can sense, of course, that there is this, I don't know, is it sadness? Is it, I don't know, maybe anger is not the right word. Maybe that's too strong, but yeah, so he talks about that in the article about not being in the film. And he understands that it's business and these things happen. But I think the fact that nobody told him, I think that's probably one of the most galling things, is that just nobody mentioned it until, that's so sad.
I feel like he would be celebrated if he were to go to a convention, and that he would see the love from fans, especially after your article here coming to fruition, because, all of their major, Highlander hardcore fans, we obviously, on Highlander Hard and here at Blood of Kings and all other, all the other sites, that this is now on the radar, and hearing these words from him and his personal tragedy. And I just want to mention something here. There's actually a quick little tie-in with the TV series here, because it says in the article here that after this incident of him trying to commit suicide, he says that he heard his wife chiding him, saying, quote, "I didn't know you were a coward, Alex. Sometimes it takes more courage to live than to die." He spent time in the Canadian Rockies, keeping a promise to her to complete his lifelong study of Shakespeare, whose language and verse would later teach at Hollywood's Estelle Harmon Actors Workshop. Also, while in Canada, he had one more brush with Highlander when Anderson invited him to the Vancouver set of the TV spinoff starring Adrian Paul and Duncan MacLeod. That's pretty cool.
So he's met two. Well, no, I don't know if he met Christopher Lambert actually. So he's met one Highlander.
That's very, very cool. Lee, I didn't know if you had any other questions for Jonathan here before we wrap things up, but I just want to mention that, with Highlander turning 40th this year, I'm hoping that Alex gets to celebrate that and, maybe make some appearances. Do you know if he's open to that, Jonathan?
I think he is. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's asked yet, but yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I'm sure I had some questions, but listen to Mr. Melville's beautiful dulcet tones just kind of lulls you into this nice little sense of like, what a lovely story. And I just lose all sense. You are a great storyteller, sir.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think Alex will watch this video. So if you've got anything, not to put you on the spot, but I think you've already said some really nice things. I mean, we only know so much, and you only know so much because you've only read that interview and seen photos. But I think what you've talked about with the fact that he was in the world in those cards is really interesting. But yeah, if there's anything else, of course, that you wanted to say, I'm sure you'd be happy to hear it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And Lee, I'll let you talk as well here on this. But Alex, if you're watching this, people have been fascinated with your character that was cut from the film. And what's interesting about Fandom, there's many, many movies that have had scenes cut from them. And yet people that were in those cut scenes have been celebrated. The Star Wars universe has several from that. Star Trek. And I can tell you right now that your character has been one of the biggest mysteries, and we're so happy that you've come forward and that you've shared your story with Jonathan, and we hope that we get to see you again in one way or another. If you return to acting, if you're doing more stunt work, let us know. And hopefully I would love it if someone were to invite you to a convention or something like that and showcase, maybe some, screenshots or anything. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and we want to hear more. You have a wonderful life that we would love to hear more about, and you have not been forgotten by Highlander fans. Trust me. We've been here for a long time, right, Lee?
Absolutely. I think this is, nobody knows really better than Kevin and I that there's not a lot new under the sun in the fandom. You go on the boards and you see the same arguments that people had 10 years ago, restarting just because they weren't there when the first time the arguments happened. But this is new and this is fun. And, reading that story, as a lifelong martial artist turned stunt guy, I would just love to have him on and talk about those glory days back then. I mean, getting recommended by Bob Anderson.
Ugh, right.
I mean, that's a gold stamp on anybody. I'd like to know, the story of how they just kind of came into being. That's, sitting in the presence of greatness. I would just love to hear his stories. You have an open invitation. Anytime you want to talk, I will stay up till the wee hours of the morning again, just to chit and or chat with you, sir.
Yeah, Alex, you have an open invitation here, and I'm sure you'll see the love from fans, because we love learning about our Highlander alumni, and especially when it comes to your martial arts and sword training, that even makes it more fascinating. Before we get into the reboot of Highlander, Jonathan, I just wonder if you have any final thoughts on Alex here and you finding him and your wonderful experience in meeting him.
No, I'm glad that he decided to come forward after all these years. And I'm glad that he's happy. I mean, he saw every word of that article before it went live. He had a chance to comment on it, because I just thought after all this time, I don't want to get it wrong, and it's not fair on him to get that wrong. So I'm so glad that he was willing to reread everything, even those tough parts of that story which he told. He had to read that so many times to get it. So we got it almost right. Again, we got a date slightly wrong, but yeah, no, I'm so glad, and I really hope you're right. I hope that more people. I hope there are events that he wants to go to, and maybe podcasts, and maybe he'll come on here. I don't know, but there is more to tell. I've only really scratched the surface, and it would be great to know how he knew Bob. I think we possibly talked about it briefly, but there's so much to talk about that. Anyway, yeah. So, no, I'm just glad that the story's out there and that he's happy with what's out there. Yeah.
Well, I just want to mention, Alex, if you're watching or listening to this, I got more of these Yung Dol Kim cards, and I'd be more than happy to send one to you, because these are a lot of fun. There's still a high collectible of these, and I don't know if you guys know this, but our Bloody King sister page, the trading card game page, there's people still playing this game, and they're using our Bloody King page to organize this. There's people that are still producing fan-made cards of Highlander and making these decks. They meet somewhere in Kansas every year for their championship. This has been going on for years, and it's what I love about it is that there's new fans finding out about this. So this is going to live on for quite a while. And Alex, thank you for coming forward. We really appreciate that. All right, we got one more thing we want to talk about as I do showcase the picture here of Yung Dol Kim, the trading card game, and of course a still from the film. Hopefully we'll get more from that going forward. But I want to ask you one last thing before you go, and we'll get into the Highlander reboot. So we recently did a podcast where we gave our thoughts on the new footage that came out recently about the Highlander reboot, Jonathan. And you, of course, living in Scotland and in the UK, you're hearing a lot about it. There's been a lot of great new set photos. There was one from China, Hong Kong recently. And it looks like they're all over the place, and there's been a lot of speculation about when and where it takes place. I want to get your thoughts. What are you hearing? Are you excited? Give us your thoughts on the Highlander reboot.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've heard so far is positive. I think it's really exciting that they've gone back to a lot of the same locations from the first film.
Especially the castle, the Eilean Castle.
Back to Eilean Castle, yes. Yeah. And I was actually there. So Hamish Macbeth, the book that we talked about earlier on the TV show. Well, the TV show was filmed in a village called Plockton, which is about 10 I don't know, 20 minutes away from the castle, from Eilean Castle. And so I was up there for a book event for Hamish Macbeth the week, when they were filming Highlander. But I kind of missed most of the action by about 4 or 5 days, sadly. Although you could see when you were driving around that area that there were groups of people and little tents in the field somewhere. And I thought there's something that I think they were still doing a little bit of filming, but I don't know for certain. But when I went into the castle, I went into the sort of restaurant cafe area. And the cafe, as I'm sure you know, is where they built Glenfinnan for the first film. Mm-hmm. That's where they built on top of that car park. And I did speak to one of the ladies behind the counter, and she said that Karen Gillan had been staying in I think she was staying in.
Is it Dorney?
In Dorney, yeah. I think she might have been in one of the little houses or flats as part of the castle, because there are little places you can stay. I think she was, but she said that she had this lady had asked her if she would sign a photo of Nebula or her
from Guardians of the Galaxy,
niece or granddaughter or whatever, and Karen was happy to do it. Because I think you can tell from the video, from everything you see about Karen Gillan, she's a really nice person and fun, loves the fans, and is just a total geek herself. And I think
she's playing Heather, is that right?
As far as we know,
yeah.
I don't know if we know for certain. I don't know if that's been mentioned, but I think so. Okay. And I think someone had seen Russell Crowe, had been nearby, so. Anyway, I'm very sad that I missed it. But actually, when I was at the Hamish Macbeth event, people there knew, of course, about Highlander that had been filming nearby. So someone did show me on their phone footage of a burning croft or building, which I don't know if it was maybe the scene of. I mean, we don't know if this is in the new film, but of Connor sort of burning down the cottage at the end, when Heather dies, and
right.
I don't know if it was that or something else, but it looked really impressive, and I almost asked for a copy of it, but I didn't in the end. So I think there are lots of people up there with little photos and little bits of footage from different angles of the filming, because everybody was just like, they're filming Highlander nearby. So I think there's a lot of excitement, but yeah, that's not a short version, but I suppose I would just say everything I've seen is positive. There's nothing that's really, I know there's this whole chat just now about the 2040 scenes maybe taking place in the future.
Yeah, it looks like we might get either a little flash forward, because some guy's wearing a 2040 New Year's Eve glasses. So there's been some concern about that, because whenever Highlander goes into the future, sometimes it gets weird. But it seems like there's a little, that they're kind of going all over the place. So I don't know, I'm curious.
Incredible, isn't it? I mean, the amount of filming they're still doing this is a huge film.
Yeah.
How lucky we are to have this happening, I think.
Yeah, I hope that we get it next year at least. There might be rumors that might push it till 2028, but yeah, it looks exciting. Is this something you're paying attention to, or are you gonna maybe try to get some interview? Are you gonna do something with this, or are you just gonna be a fan and wait to see it?
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to write a book about it, but I'll be honest, nobody's come forward and asked me. I know that a friend of mine is a journalist and an editor of a magazine that does a lot of science fiction and things, and they couldn't get on the set.
Right.
So I think they've been really cautious when it comes to journalists. Although at the same time, there are millions of photos out there of them filming on the streets. So I don't know why they couldn't,
It seems like Amazon is throwing a bunch of money into this. They seem to believe in it. So I just hope that we get a theatrical release, because with it being through Amazon, usually it goes straight to streaming. But I hope that we get a theatrical release here. So,
Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely going to, 99% sure it's going to be theatrical, because it's just so big and expensive. My hope is they do a premiere in Inverness.
Yeah.
Karen Gillan, I don't know if she's still the patron, but she was a patron of their their kind of acting, their theater side of things for a long time. So I wonder if she might push to try and get it's her hometown, so maybe she'll get one there.
There's been some speculation, one last topic here, of who, if they're going to use some of the names from the original film and have newer actors play them. Obviously, we have Batista as the Kurgan, supposedly. Are we going to get a Yung Dol Kim in this thing? There's been some speculation that the IP Man star Max Zhang maybe might be that character, or just another person that knows some kick-ass moves and maybe is an immortal themselves. Has there been any speculation on that side of anyone taking up the Yung Dol Kim character, maybe?
I mean, if there is, I suspect everything's been discussed on the forums, so I'm not sure, but it'd be great if they did. I mean, when I spoke to Alex, if you get, if he ever decides to come on, he's got a great theory about how they should introduce Connor. I mean, he's still thinking about Highlander after all this time, and he's got ideas.
Great. I love that.
He's just. I mean, without spoiling it's his idea, but it's kind of about the fact that Connor has been doing this for hundreds of years, and he knows he could go into a room, close his eyes, and have a fight, and be the guy that wins, because he knows he can hear everything. He knows where people are coming from. He knows the move to make, and he's been doing it for centuries. And just his idea of walking past. I mean, I'll spoil it a little bit. It was kind of. I think he said they would be walking. He'd be walking past like a fencing studio or a studio where they're all practicing, and he would walk in and just be able to take everyone on with his eyes closed, or with maybe even a blindfold on, which maybe has been used in other films. I don't know, but when he said to me, it sounded really cool, because
that's really cool coming from Alex himself. I love that.
Yeah, plus all the different martial arts and the different the different, I mean, Lee knows more about the terminology, but the different skills and, he's learnt them all. Basically, he knows every kind of move that you can make, and every kind of, that was his thought anyway, that Connor would just be the best in the world. So,
Lee has always told me that when we finally meet in person, that he'll close his eyes and know how to take me on, right, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with some pop culture, probably throw some obsolete media at you to distract you.
Well, as we wrap this up, Lee, do you have any final questions for Jonathan here?
I'm always intrigued, and I think with this subject, is there anything that you had to leave out that you kind of regret of the book?
That's a good question.
I mean, there's a little bit more I would have liked to see in there. We covered a lot of the deleted scenes, and we've got full color photos from the dugout scene with Castigear and Bedso and MacLeod. So there's some really nice photos in there from that, but we couldn't get much. I would like to have more on Bedso, played by John Polito. There are some photos, we just couldn't get them into the book. For some reason, it didn't quite work out, because I only, I write the words, and Titan deals with, of course, all the design. There's a great designer there, so there were reasons, I don't know, but that would have been nice. Maybe doing a little bit more. I would have liked to have done a bit more with Alex actually in the book, and that was just down to, I can't quite remember, but I think my proposal for the book came before I knew about Alex, so the word count was kind of locked down a little bit. So there's actually a bit more in that article in the Telegraph than is in the book, but there are some more details in the book about working with Clancy that I left out of that article. So I think reading them both is the best plan, of course, I would say. So no, I don't think it would be lovely to, there's so much more, there are more photos, there are more like production reports and things. I managed to get one of the production reports in there from Edwin Atkins, Itzy Atkins.
He was a great interview. Thank you for hooking him up.
He was so fun.
Yeah. He's great. But one of the ones when they filmed at Meadowland Arena, We've got some of the production notes. So I think from a geeky point of view, it would be nice to have more of those production notes so everyone could see them.
Right.
But it's not cool, I think, from a book editor point of view. It's like, well, these are just production notes. They're not cool photos. So I think there's still more to be written about Highlander. I think I've tried to cover as much as I can, of course, but there's probably still more.
Well, you should be proud of yourself, Jonathan, and you've done a lot of work on this, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm really excited for the fans to get this book and check it out. I can't wait to share it with my wife. We'll have a link in the publication notes, show notes to the article for people that want to read more on that and to also get your book as well. So thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and head on out of Connor's inner sanctum here, and let's wrap things up. Here on Blood of Kings, we recently did, of course, we had our Highlander reboot first movie images on the set. We had some special guests on there, John Mosby, Grant Kempster, you, of course, Lee. We talked about our thoughts on the movie, and we also interviewed John Mosby about his 1994 Highlander 3 article that was in Starlog, because we've been celebrating Highlander in Starlog, so make sure you check that out. And we've been releasing some older episodes and interviews before our YouTube days on YouTube. We had audio interviews with the, I'm going to call it the Mythos convention that was in March of 2020. It was literally the week before the pandemic. And Peter Wingfield had a wonderful little convention in Los Angeles. And I have an interview with him and David Abramowitz on one episode. And then him and Jim Burns, plays Joe the Watcher. And of course, you don't know who Peter is. He played Mythos on the TV series, a 5,000-year-old immortal, and both those interviews were wonderful. And celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Fandom Podcast Network and Blood of Kings, we released our 2016 interview with Elizabeth Grayson, which was a lot of fun. And we also been doing a series called The Fixing, where Lee and I would go back on old TV episodes and that weren't very popular or very good. And we decided, let's do an episode on how we would fix it. And we had the ultimate one where we had Richard Martin on, who did some wonderful TV episodes, including Duende, some very other popular ones. And we had the Two of Hearts episode, and we had him on discussing how we would fix his episode. We got his thoughts, and what if it was a spin-off series? So,
and I gotta say, it was he was a good sport about that, because
he was.
Let's just say we were honest about our opinions on the episode, even though he was like right there.
Yeah,
but I think he knew. No, we came from a place of love.
Yeah.
But
he came up with some good ideas about how he would have fixed his own episode, so that was a lot of fun. So,
but they also didn't give him like the best ingredients for a Highlander episode, considering the Highlander wasn't in it.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us how fans can reach out to you, follow you. I'll have links to your books. And I forgot to mention this, but I was upset I couldn't make it to Comic-Con this year because they were going to have your book with a limited amount signed by Russell McKay at the Titans publishing booth there. So I'm sorry I missed out on that. But how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed out on that. I never got one of those copies. So
you should.
I know. It'd be nice. I mean, I guess the best place, not that I'm a huge fan of Facebook, but everyone's on it, aren't they still? So I'm on there. I think it's just / Jonathan Melville. And on Instagram, John Melville, Jon Melville. And I am actually trying, because a few people have said, can they have signed copies of the books? I have set up a page on, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, is it Ko-fi or Ko-fi, Ko-fi, I think it is. You can search. I've got links on my Facebook page, but I'm selling some copies, some signed copies. At the moment, just the UK, just because I worked out, I wanted to get a packaging that was a good size so it didn't get damaged. But of course, then it's huge. Right. And then if I send it to America, the postage was something like £30, which is what, $45 just for postage.
It's a heavy book.
Yeah. So I just thought, look, I'm also going to do some book plates designed by Grant Kempster from Highlander Heart, which people can buy if they want from me, and I'll send them out to anywhere in the world. and I'll sign those. You can put them in the book. So yeah,
you also have a Facebook group I did want to mention for your It's a Kind of Magic book as well. I know you've been posting some stuff on there, so yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know sometimes which one to post on. So I think I'm doing more on my personal one just now. But yeah, it's just it's fun, and it's just great hearing from fans, theories, and as you know, just everything about the book. People have been very positive, but of course nobody quite knows what it is yet. So hopefully word will get out that it is. If you have the original book, I think, I'll say, I think you need this one as well. Of course you do.
Well, this is, of course, Bloody Kings on the Fandom Podcast Network, guys. Please check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you're listening to this, you can see the video on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. And also to the Bloody King sister page with the Highlander collectible card game. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X for Bloody Kings. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on all of that as well, including Blue Sky. My name is Kevin. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on all of the socials. Lee, where can people reach out to you?
You can catch me on Facebook and Instagram. They're under my name or under the Fight Monkeys. There's our mascot, Furious George. Shout out to my buddy Nick Kreckler, who made that for us. And I'd also tell anyone, support local film festivals. That's how the creative stuff is getting made. That's the next generation of guys that are going to blow your mind with what they can do. Yeah. And you never know what you're going to see because they're just making passion projects. They're not doing it with a marketing group. So it's going to be very fun. Yeah.
That's great, man. Always support. And like I said, support your film festivals and stuff like that.
And support independent authors like that one Scottish guy. What's his name?
The Melville book, right? Yeah, totally.
Herman Melville. He wrote that whale book, right? Yeah.
That's right. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on. And also, too, just as a fan, thank you for, bringing one of the biggest mysteries from Highlander and showcasing this wonderful gentleman and his story and bringing it to us. Alex, if you're out there, thank you so much for coming forward. We'd love to see more of you. And thank you, Jonathan, for doing this. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Lee. It's been great to chat.
Hey, it's been great to see you again, man.
Cheers, anytime.
Yeah. Guys, as always, you can find us here on the Fandom Podcast Network and, of course, on YouTube. Subscribe all over the podcast catchers. This is, of course, Bloody Kings. Episode 181, Highlander 1986, Yung Dol Kim actor Alex King found with our special interview with author Jonathan Melville. Guys, thank you again so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. On behalf of Lee, my name is Kevin and our special guest Jonathan. Thanks everyone for listening, and join us again next time here on the Fandom Podcast Network for another episode of Bloody Kings, a Highlander podcast. That sensation you are feeling is the quickening. We are one, we are immortals.
Farewell, dear shitheads.
Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.